Gabriel Russo's fingers tightened around his whiskey glass as he stared out at the New York skyline from his penthouse office. 5 years. 5 years since Davy disappeared during that bloody war with the Kozlov family. 5 years of searching, of hope slowly dying, of accepting his son was never coming home. The intercom buzzed. "Boss, Marina Petrov is here for the interview." Gabriel barely looked up. Another housekeeper. Rosa had been begging him to hire help, but nobody stayed long. They either couldn't handle the security requirements or got spooked by the whispered rumors about what happened in the Russo household after dark. Marina walked in like she owned the room. At 28, she had striking Slavic features, high cheekbones, pale blue eyes that seemed to see too much, and dark blonde hair pulled into a practical bun. But it was her posture that caught Gabriel's attention. Military straight, alert, like someone who knew how to survive. "Mr. Russo," she said in accented English, extending her hand. "I understand you need domestic staff." Gabriel studied her some. Born in Moscow, moved to Brighton Beach at 16, worked for several wealthy families. Clean background check, though something felt deliberately incomplete about her history. If you want to know what Marina reveals next that changes everything, subscribe to our channel right now. And tell us in the comments, are you watching from New York, Los Angeles, or somewhere else entirely? Your support helps us bring you more incredible stories of love, danger, and second chances. Hit that like button if you're already hooked. "Why do you want to work here?" Gabriel asked, leaning back in his leather chair. "Most people are afraid of this family." Marina's eyes didn't flinch. "I am not most people, Mr. Russo. I have worked for powerful men before. I understand discretion. Discretion is life and death in my world. I know exactly what your world is," she said quietly. "That's why I'm here." Something in her tone made Gabriel's instincts sharpen. Before he could ask what she meant, Marina spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mr. Russo, I need to tell you something about a boy I knew at the shelter in Brighton Beach. A boy who lived with me for 6 months last year." Gabriel's blood turned to ice. "This boy," Marina continued, watching his face carefully, "he had nightmares in Italian. He drew pictures of a man with amber eyes and a dragon tattoo on his neck. He called for his papa every night." The whiskey glass slipped from Gabriel's hand, shattering on the marble floor. The sound seemed to echo through the sudden vacuum of silence. "What was his name?" Gabriel's voice cracked. Marina's eyes filled with tears. "He said his name was Davy Russo. He said bad men took him from his papa during a big fight. He said his papa had a scar right here." She touched the left side of her jaw. "From when he was little." Gabriel's hand instinctively went to his own scar, the one Davy used to trace with tiny fingers during bedtime stories. "Where is he?" Gabriel stood so fast his chair toppled backward. "Russia," Marina whispered. "The Volkov family has been raising him as their own son. They call him Dmitri now." The world tilted. Gabriel gripped his desk to stay upright. "My son is alive." Cap 202. The next 18 hours passed in a blur of controlled chaos. Gabriel's security team swept Marina's background 3 more times while she sat in a safe house under protective surveillance. Gabriel himself hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, could barely form coherent thoughts beyond the thundering reality. Davy was alive. Dr. Sarah Chen, the family psychologist who'd helped Gabriel through the worst of his grief, sat across from him in his study at 6 a.m., her expression carefully neutral. "Gabriel, you need to consider the possibility this could be psychological warfare," she said gently. "The Volkov family has motive to hurt you. Using your son's memory as a weapon would be—" "She knew about the scar," Gabriel interrupted, his voice hoarse from hours of questioning Marina. "She knew he drew dragons. She knew he spoke Italian in his sleep, information that could have been gathered. She knew he had a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon on his shoulder blade." Gabriel's amber eyes burned with desperate hope. "No one outside this family knows that detail. No one." Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. "If this is real, Gabriel, you understand what it means. The Volkov family isn't just any criminal organization. They're one of the most powerful Mafia families in Russia. If they've been raising Davy as their own, he might not remember me," Gabriel finished. "I might think of them as his real family." The words felt like swallowing glass, but Gabriel had to face the truth. A 5-year-old boy, traumatized by violence, raised for 5 years by the enemy. What would that do to a child's mind? His phone rang. Marco, his head of security. "Boss, we finished the deep background on Marina Petrov. You need to see this." 20 minutes later, Gabriel stared at surveillance photos spread across his desk. Marina as a teenager, obviously military training. Marina at 22, in what looked like a Russian intelligence facility. Marina last year, photographed outside the Volkov compound in Moscow. She's FSB, Marco said grimly. Russian intelligence, deep cover for at least 6 years. Gabriel's heart plummeted. It was a trap, an elaborate, cruel trap, using his dead son's memory to destroy him. Then Marco continued, "But boss, there's more. 3 weeks ago, Marina Petrov went rogue. She disappeared from Moscow with classified intelligence about Volkov family operations. There's a price on her head from her own government." The pieces started falling into place. Marina wasn't working for the Volkovs. She was running from them. Gabriel's intercom buzzed. "Boss, Marina is asking to speak with you. She says she has something to show you." 10 minutes later, Marina sat across from Gabriel's desk, her hands folded calmly despite the armed guards flanking her. She reached into her jacket slowly and pulled out a small video tablet. "Before you decide, I am your enemy," she said quietly. "Watch this." The video was grainy, clearly shot in secret. A large house, Russian architecture, snow-covered grounds, and then Gabriel's world stopped. A boy with dark hair and amber eyes exactly like his own kicked a soccer ball across a frozen yard. He was bigger now, 10 years old instead of 5, but Gabriel would recognize his son anywhere. "Davy," Gabriel whispered. On screen, the boy looked up at the camera accidentally, and Gabriel saw his own face reflected back at him. His son, alive, real, beautiful, and growing up with the enemy. "I took this video 2 months ago," Marina said softly. "The Volkovs call him Dmitri. He thinks Viktor Volkov is his father. But Gabriel," she paused, "he still has nightmares about amber eyes and dragon tattoos. He still remembers you even if he doesn't understand why." Gabriel's hands shook as he watched the video again. His son was alive, but he was also a stranger, a little boy raised by killers who might have no memory of the man who'd once sung him Italian lullabies. "Why are you helping me?" Gabriel asked. Marina's blue eyes hardened with pain. "Because the Volkovs killed my real family too, and because every child deserves to know who they really are." Cap Tulo 3. Gabriel hadn't felt this level of nervous energy since the night Davi was born. He paced the length of his study while Marina sat calmly on the leather sofa, eating Rosa's homemade soup as if she hadn't just upended his entire existence. "Tell me everything about his daily routine," Gabriel demanded for the 3rd time. Marina set down her spoon patiently. "He wakes at 7, breakfast with Katya, Victor's wife. She genuinely loves him, Gabriel. This will not be simple as taking back stolen property." The words hit Gabriel like a physical blow. Another woman had been mothering his son for 5 years. Another woman heard his first words in Russian, celebrated his birthdays, kissed his scraped knees. "He attends private school in Moscow, speaks perfect Russian, some English. He's learning piano and martial arts. Marina paused. "He's happy." Gabriel, confused sometimes, troubled by dreams he doesn't understand, but happy. Gabriel stopped pacing. "You're telling me to leave him there." "I'm telling you to think carefully about what's best for him versus what you need." The accusation stung because it rang true. Gabriel's need to get his son back felt like a physical hunger. But what if rescuing Davy would actually hurt him? "Show me more," Gabriel said. Marina connected her tablet to Gabriel's wall screen. More surveillance footage filled the room. Davi, Dmitri, laughing with other children, hugging the woman he thought was his mother, playing chess with Viktor Volkov, the man responsible for his kidnapping. Gabriel's jaw clenched watching Viktor ruffle his son's hair with genuine affection. The bastard wasn't just raising Davi as a weapon. He was actually acting like a father. "Viktor lost his own son in a car accident the same year he took Davi," Marina explained. "His grief made him desperate. When his men brought him this beautiful American boy who'd witnessed his father's crimes, Viktor saw an opportunity to replace his dead son with mine, to save them both." Gabriel wanted to put his fist through the wall. Instead, he asked, "What's your extraction plan?" Marina looked surprised. "I don't have one. I came to give you information, not to start a war." "Then you don't know me very well." Gabriel's voice turned arctic. "Nobody takes what belongs to me and keeps it." "Gabriel." Marina stood, moving closer with that military precision he'd noticed earlier. "The Volkov compound has 40 armed guards, sophisticated security systems, and ties to the Russian government. You can't just storm in. Watch me. You'll get him killed." The words stopped Gabriel cold. Marina pressed her advantage. Victor loves that boy. If he thinks he's about to lose him, he might decide it's better for Dmitri to die as his son than live as yours. Gabriel stared at her, recognizing the tactical truth in her words, even as they tore his heart apart. Then what do you suggest? Marina moved to the window, looking out at the city lights. We need Victor to want to give Davi back willingly. That's impossible. Not if we make him believe keeping the boy is more dangerous than letting him go. Gabriel studied Marina's reflection in the glass. She stood like a soldier, thought like a spy, but something in her eyes when she talked about Davi seemed genuinely protective. You really care about him. He reminds me of my little brother, Marina said quietly. Lost, confused, but still fighting to understand his place in the world. What happened to your brother? Marina's reflection went very still. Viktor Volkov had him killed when he was 12, for stealing bread. The truth settled between them like a loaded weapon. Marina wasn't just helping Gabriel out of kindness. This was personal revenge, wrapped in a rescue mission. Now I understand why you're really here, Gabriel said. Marina turned to face him. Does it matter? My motivations don't change the fact that your son is alive and needs you. Gabriel studied her face, looking for deception and finding only determination and old pain. If we do this together, you understand what it means. Once I trust you with my son's life, you're under my protection. Permanently. I understand. It also means if you betray me, I'll kill you myself. Marina's blue eyes didn't flinch. I would expect nothing less. Something shifted in the room, a wordless agreement, a partnership born of mutual need and shared rage. Gabriel walked to his desk and pulled out a secure phone. Marco, cancel all my appointments for the next month. And call the pilot. We're going to Moscow. Cap Tulo 4. The private jet cut through grey clouds somewhere over the Atlantic. Gabriel hadn't spoken for 2 hours, just stared out the window while Marina worked on her laptop, occasionally glancing at him with an expression he couldn't read. Finally, she closed the computer. You're thinking about what he'll say when he sees you, she said. Gabriel's jaw tightened. He won't recognize me. Maybe not at first. But Gabriel, Marina leaned forward in her seat. Children remember love. Even when their minds forget, their hearts remember. You sound like a therapist. I sound like someone who's spent time with your son. Marina's voice softened. He draws pictures of a man with amber eyes. He keeps them hidden under his mattress. Katya found them once and asked him who it was. He said he didn't know, just someone from his dreams who made him feel safe. Gabriel's composure nearly cracked. The image of his son secretly drawing pictures of the father he couldn't quite remember was almost unbearable. How do you know all this? Because I lived in the servant quarters for 6 months. I watched him, Gabriel. I saw how he would sometimes stare at nothing and whisper words in English he didn't remember learning. Dragons, Papa, home. Gabriel turned to look at Marina directly for the first time since takeoff. She was beautiful in an understated way, but more than that, she was competent, dangerous, the kind of woman who survived in a world that ate most people alive. Why did you leave intelligence work? Marina was quiet for a long moment. Because I discovered that serving my country sometimes meant serving monsters. When Viktor Volkov became a protected asset of the state, I couldn't continue. And you think I'm different? I think you love your son more than power. Viktor loves power more than anything. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. Mr. Russo, we'll be landing in Prague in 2 hours. Ground transportation is arranged. Prague first. Then a carefully orchestrated journey into Russia, using false documents Marina had prepared. Gabriel's legitimate passport would trigger alerts the moment he crossed the border. Once we're in Moscow, everything changes, Marina said. You become Mikhail Petrov, my businessman husband from Brighton Beach. We're visiting my cousin's family for Christmas. And if someone recognizes me, then we improvise and hope we don't die. Gabriel almost smiled at her blunt honesty. You're not very reassuring. I'm realistic. This plan requires luck, timing, and Viktor Volkov believing we're not a threat. How do we get him to give up Davi willingly? Marina pulled out a thick file. Viktor's empire depends on his government connections, but those connections are fragile. If certain information about his operations reached the right people in Moscow, Gabriel scanned the documents, financial records, photographs, audio recordings, evidence of Viktor's unsanctioned activities that would make him a liability to his government protectors. You've been planning this for months. Years, Marina corrected. I've been waiting for the right opportunity to destroy Viktor Volkov. Your son just gave me the perfect motivation. And if Victor decides to kill us both before we can use any of this, Marina's blue eyes hardened. Then we make sure we take him with us. Gabriel studied her face, recognizing something familiar in her expression, the look of someone who'd lost everything and had nothing left to lose except the chance for justice. You're not just helping me get my son back, he realized. You're using me to get your revenge. Does that bother you? Gabriel considered the question. Marina was manipulating him, but she was also giving him the only chance he'd ever have to see Davy again. Her motivations might be selfish, but their goals aligned. As long as my son comes home safe, I don't care what happens to Victor Volkov. Good, Marina said, because I plan to watch him lose everything he loves. Just like he took everything from me. The jet began its descent through the clouds, and Gabriel felt his heart rate accelerate. In less than 24 hours, he would be in the same city as his son for the first time in 5 years. He pulled out his phone and scrolled to a photo of Davy from his 5th birthday, the last birthday they'd celebrated together. A little boy with gap-toothed smile and amber eyes, wearing a Batman costume and holding a dragon plushie. What if he doesn't want to come with me? Gabriel asked. Marina looked at the photo, then at Gabriel's face. Then you'll have to decide what kind of father you want to be. The kind who forces a child into an unfamiliar life, or the kind who loves him enough to let him choose. Capitulo 5. Moscow in December felt like stepping into a frozen hell. Gabriel pulled his coat tighter as they exited Domodedovo Airport, his breath forming clouds in the bitter air. Marina moved beside him with the confidence of someone coming home, speaking rapid Russian to their driver. The safe house was a modest apartment in a working-class neighborhood, deliberately unremarkable. Marina had chosen it carefully, close enough to the Volkov compound for surveillance, far enough away to avoid suspicion. No contact with your people in New York, Marina reminded him as they settled in. Victor has sources everywhere. One phone call to the wrong person and we're dead. Gabriel nodded, though every instinct screamed at him to call for backup. He was used to having an army at his disposal, not operating alone in enemy territory, with only a rogue Russian agent for support. Marina spread surveillance photos across the small kitchen table. Victor's routine is precise. Every Tuesday he takes Davy to chess lessons at the Moscow Chess Academy. They arrive at 3, leave at 4:30. Minimal security because it's public, seemingly innocent. You want me to approach him at chess lessons? I want you to see him first, from a distance. Let the reality of it sink in before you make any decisions you can't undo. Gabriel stared at the photos of his son. Davy looked so much older, more serious. The chubby cheeks of early childhood had given way to defined features that looked heartbreakingly like Gabriel's own at that age. What if I can't control myself? What if I see him and just take him? Marina finished. Then you'll destroy any chance of this working. Gabriel, you have to understand, Dmitri trusts Victor completely. If a stranger tries to grab him, he'll fight. He'll scream. He'll think you're the monster. The words hit Gabriel like physical blows, but he knew Marina was right. From Davy's perspective, Victor wasn't the kidnapper. He was the father who'd raised him, loved him, protected him for 5 years. How do I compete with that? Marina poured tea from a battered samovar, her movements precise and graceful. You don't compete, you offer him something Victor can't. Which is? The truth about who he really is. They spent the next 2 hours reviewing every detail of Marina's intelligence. Guard rotations, security protocols, Victor's business schedule, even Katya's shopping habits. By the time they finished, Gabriel felt like he could navigate the Volkov compound blindfolded. Tomorrow we do reconnaissance, Marina said. Wednesday, you see your son. Thursday, we begin the psychological pressure campaign against Victor. And Friday? Marina's blue eyes were steady. Friday, we see if Victor Volkov loves your son enough to let him go. That night, Gabriel couldn't sleep. He stood at the apartment's small window, looking out at the Moscow skyline and thinking about bedtime stories he used to read, Italian lullabies he used to sing, the weight of a small boy falling asleep in his arms. Somewhere out there in a mansion on the other side of the city, his son was sleeping in a stranger's house, dreaming in Russian, calling another man Papa. He's safe, Marina said quietly from behind him. Whatever else Victor is, he genuinely protects that boy. Gabriel turned. Marina stood in the doorway wearing an oversized sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked younger like this, more vulnerable. Were you ever married? Gabriel asked. Once. He was killed in Syria when I was 25. I'm sorry. War takes everyone eventually. Marina moved to stand beside him at the window. Your wife, Davy's mother. Davy's. How did she die? Gabriel's jaw tightened. Car bomb meant for me. She was 8 months pregnant with our second child. Jesus. Victor's people planted it. So you see, this isn't just about getting my son back. It's about justice for the woman I loved and the child who never had a chance to live. Marina was quiet for a moment. Is that why you never remarried? Guilt? Fear, Gabriel admitted. Love makes you vulnerable. It gives your enemies targets. And yet here you are, risking everything for a son you haven't seen in 5 years. Gabriel looked at her profile, noting the strong line of her jaw, the intelligence in her eyes. Some risks are worth taking. Something shifted between them, an acknowledgement of attraction neither was ready to voice. They were two damaged people brought together by tragedy and revenge, finding unexpected comfort in each other's company. Gabriel, Marina said softly, after we get Davy back, what happens to us? The question hung in the cold air between them. Gabriel didn't have an answer, couldn't think beyond the moment when he would see his son's face again. I don't know, he said finally, but I know I don't want you to disappear when this is over. Marina smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. Careful, Mr. Russo. You're starting to sound like a man who's falling in love. Maybe I am, Gabriel said, surprising himself with his honesty. Outside the window, snow began to fall, and somewhere across the city, his son was sleeping, unaware that his whole world was about to change. Yoskirmasa Cap 206. The Moscow Chess Academy occupied a grand building near Red Square, its walls lined with portraits of grandmasters and championship banners. Gabriel sat in a cafe across the street, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, watching the entrance with the intensity of a predator. Marina's voice crackled through his earpiece. Black sedan approaching from the east. That's Victor's car. Gabriel's heart hammered against his ribs as the sedan pulled up to the curb. The door opened, and Viktor Volkov stepped out first, a man in his 50s with silver hair and expensive clothes, moving with the confident swagger of someone who'd never faced real consequences for his actions. Then he reached back into the car, and Gabriel's world stopped. Davy emerged from the sedan, now 10 years old and heartbreakingly beautiful. He wore a heavy winter coat and carried a chess case, his dark hair visible beneath a wool cap. Even from across the street, Gabriel could see his own eyes reflected in his son's face. Breathe, Marina whispered through the earpiece. Just watch. Don't move yet. Gabriel watched Victor place a protective hand on Davy's shoulder as they walked toward the academy entrance. The gesture was genuinely paternal, and Gabriel felt a stab of irrational jealousy. This man had been present for 5 years of his son's life that Gabriel had missed. 5 years of growth, learning, bonding. Papa, can we get ice cream after? Davy asked in Russian, his voice carrying across the street. Gabriel flinched at hearing his son call another man Papa, the word that should have been his. Of course, Victor replied, using an endearment that meant little one. You play well today, we celebrate. They disappeared into the building, and Gabriel sat back in his chair, shaking. Seeing Davy healthy and happy should have been a relief, but instead, Gabriel felt like he was losing his son all over again. How do I compete with that? Gabriel asked into his mic. You don't have to. Marina's voice was gentle. You just have to remind him who he used to be. An hour and a half later, Victor and Davy emerged from the academy. The boy was animated, talking excitedly about his chess match, and Victor listened with the attention of a devoted father. He won, Marina observed from her position across the square. Look at Victor's face. He's genuinely proud. Gabriel watched Victor ruffle Davy's hair and felt his heart break a little more. This wasn't just kidnapping anymore. This was a family, twisted and built on lies, but real emotions nonetheless. As they headed toward their car, Davy suddenly stopped and looked directly across the street, his gaze landing on Gabriel's cafe window. For a moment, father and son stared at each other across the distance, neither recognizing the other, but both feeling something. Davy tilted his head, a gesture Gabriel remembered from when he was little, as if trying to solve a puzzle. Then Victor called his name, and the moment shattered. Did you see that? Gabriel breathed. He sensed something, Marina confirmed. Children are intuitive. Some part of him recognized you. Gabriel watched their car drive away, taking his son back to the compound, back to the life that didn't include him. But for that one moment, Davy had looked at him with curiosity instead of fear, and that gave Gabriel hope. That evening, back at the safe house, Gabriel and Marina spread out their psychological warfare materials, financial documents that would implicate Victor in unsanctioned arms deals, photos of him meeting with foreign agents, audio recordings of conversations that would make the Russian government reconsider his protected status. "We start tomorrow," Marina said. "Anonymous tips to the right people, leaked documents to investigative journalists. By week's end, Victor will be fighting for his political life. And when he's desperate men make mistakes. They also become willing to make deals they'd never consider otherwise." Gabriel studied the intelligence files. "You've been planning this for years." "Every detail," Marina confirmed. "Victor killed my family when I was 16. I've spent the last 12 years of my life positioning myself to destroy him. And Davi just happened to give you the perfect opportunity." Marina looked up from her laptop. "Nothing about this is accidental, Gabriel. I came to work for you because I knew eventually you'd lead me to your son, and your son would lead me to Victor." The admission hung between them like a loaded weapon. Gabriel processed the implications slowly. "You've been using me from the beginning." "Yes," Marina said without apology. "But that doesn't make my feelings for you less real." Gabriel felt something shift inside him. Anger, yes, but also admiration. Marina had played a game so complex and long-term that it rivaled anything Gabriel had orchestrated in his own criminal career. "What feelings?" he asked. Marina closed her laptop and looked at him directly. "The kind that make me hope we both survive this so I can find out what happens next." Gabriel stood and walked to where she sat, studying her face for deception and finding only truth, complicated and dangerous, but truth nonetheless. "After we get Davy back," he said, "we're going to have a very long conversation about trust and honesty." "I look forward to it," Marina said. Gabriel kissed her then, surprising them both. It was supposed to be about power and control, but it became something softer, more desperate. Two people finding comfort in each other while standing on the edge of war. When they broke apart, Marina's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "What happens if this doesn't work?" she asked. "What if Victor refuses to give him up?" Gabriel's amber eyes hardened with resolution. "Then I take my son anyway, and Viktor Volkov learns why crossing the Russo family was the last mistake he'll ever make." Cap Tulo 7. The first crack in Viktor Volkov's armor appeared on Thursday morning. Gabriel and Marina sat in a surveillance van outside the Volkov compound, monitoring communications as Viktor's world began to collapse. "Turn up the audio," Gabriel instructed. Through their high-tech equipment, they could hear Victor screaming in rapid Russian into his phone, pacing back and forth in his study, while his security chief delivered increasingly bad news. Marina translated quietly. "The Federal Security Service wants to meet with him immediately. Someone leaked his arms dealing records to Moscow Times. His government contact won't return his calls." Gabriel felt grim satisfaction watching Victor's empire crack. The man who'd stolen his son was finally experiencing fear. "Boss, we have a problem," Victor's security chief said in accented English. "American FBI contacted Moscow police about Dmitri. They're asking questions about missing American boy from 5 years ago." Gabriel and Marina exchanged glances. They hadn't expected the investigation to reach Russian authorities so quickly. "Impossible," Victor snapped. "Dmitri is my son. Legal adoption papers, papers that won't survive international scrutiny, boss. Americans have DNA samples from boy's father. They want to compare." Gabriel's heart raced. DNA tests would prove conclusively that Davy was his son, but they'd also expose his location to international authorities who might not prioritize reuniting them safely. Through the surveillance feed, they watched Victor grab a crystal tumbler and hurl it against the wall. "Get Katya and Dmitri. We leave for the country house tonight." Marina tensed. "The country house is a fortress. If he takes Davy there, we'll never reach him." Gabriel was already reaching for his phone. "Then we move now before they can leave Moscow." "Gabriel, wait!" But Gabriel was beyond patience. 5 years of grief, 3 days of surveillance, and now Victor was about to disappear with his son again. Gabriel wouldn't let that happen. "Marina, you can either help me or stay here, but I'm getting my son today." Marina stared at him for a moment, then sighed and started the van. "You're going to get us all killed." "Probably." They drove toward the Volkov compound in tense silence, both knowing they were about to attempt something that bordered on suicide. The compound was a fortress with high walls, armed guards, and sophisticated security systems. 2 people against 40 professional killers. There, Marina pointed to a service entrance on the compound's eastern wall. Laundry delivery arrives at 2 o'clock every Thursday. I have the driver's credentials. Gabriel checked his watch. 1:45 p.m. Can you get us inside? I can get us inside. Getting out alive with your son is another matter entirely. They switched to stolen laundry van, and Marina expertly forged delivery credentials. At exactly 2 p.m., they approached the service gate. Marina spoke casual Russian to the guard, while Gabriel hid in the back among industrial washing machines. Once inside the compound, Marina guided them toward the main house using security blind spots she'd memorized during her 6 months of infiltration. Davy will be in the family wing, she whispered. 3rd floor, blue door with airplane stickers. Gabriel's heart clenched. His son had airplane stickers on his door. Such a normal little boy detail in the middle of this nightmare. They crept through servant corridors, avoiding the main hallways where Victor's guards patrolled. Every step brought Gabriel closer to his son and deeper into mortal danger. Then they heard voices approaching, Victor and his security chief heading directly toward them. Marina grabbed Gabriel and pulled him into a supply closet. Their bodies pressed together in the small space as footsteps passed inches from their hiding place. If Dmitri asks questions about the move, Victor was saying, tell him we're going on vacation, I won't have him frightened. And if the Americans find us? They won't, Victor's voice was steel. Dmitri is my son now. Blood doesn't matter, love does. I've earned his love over 5 years, his biological father is a stranger. The words hit Gabriel like physical blows, but they also revealed Victor's greatest fear, that Davy might choose his real father over the man who'd raised him. After the voices faded, Gabriel and Marina emerged from hiding and continued toward the family wing. They climbed service stairs to the 3rd floor, hearts hammering, as each step brought them closer to the moment Gabriel had dreamed of for 5 years. The blue door with airplane stickers stood slightly ajar. Gabriel pushed it open and saw his son sitting at a small desk, working on homework, completely oblivious to the chaos erupting around him. Davy, Gabriel whispered. The boy looked up, amber eyes exactly like Gabriel's own, and tilted his head in that familiar gesture of puzzlement. Do I know you? Davy asked in English, his accent a mixture of American and Russian that broke Gabriel's heart. Gabriel stepped into the room, every parental instinct screaming that this was his child, his blood, his heart walking around outside his body. Yes, Gabriel said, kneeling to Davy's eye level. You do know me. You just don't remember yet. Davy stood slowly, studying Gabriel's face with intense concentration. For you have the eyes from my dreams, he said quietly. The safe eyes. Gabriel's vision blurred with tears. That's right, little dragon. I'm from your dreams. Behind them, Marina kept watch at the door, her entire body tense with the knowledge that discovery meant death for all of them. Are you my real papa? Davy asked. The question barely audible. Gabriel reached out slowly and touched the crescent moon birthmark on Davy's shoulder, visible above his t-shirt collar. What do you think? Gabriel asked softly. Davy's eyes went wide with recognition and wonder and fear. Papa, he whispered in English, the word Gabriel hadn't heard in 5 years. And then alarms started blaring throughout the compound. Captulo 8. Chaos erupted instantly, guard dogs barking, security alarms shrieking, boots thundering through corridors as Victor's men mobilized. Marina burst into the bedroom, her face pale with urgency. They found the laundry van, she said. We have maybe 2 minutes before they reach this floor. Gabriel turned to Davy, who stood frozen with confusion and terror as his safe world collapsed around him. I know you're scared, Gabriel said, kneeling again, but I need you to trust me. We have to leave now. I want Papa Victor, Davy said, tears streaming down his face. I want Mama Katya. I don't understand what's happening. Gabriel's heart shattered. His son was calling for the people who'd kidnapped him, viewing Gabriel as the threat. 5 years of love and lies had created an impossible situation. Victor isn't your real father, Gabriel said desperately. He took you from me when you were little. I've been looking for you every day for 5 years. You're lying. Davy backed away. Papa Victor saved me from bad men. He told me my American father didn't want me. The manipulation was worse than Gabriel had imagined. Victor hadn't just stolen his son. He'd poisoned Davy's mind against the father who'd never stopped searching for him. Footsteps in the hallway getting closer. Gabriel, Marina warned. We have to go. Now. Gabriel looked at his terrified son and made the hardest decision of his life. Davi, I know you don't understand, but if you stay here, Victor will take you away where I'll never find you again. I can't let that happen." Before Davi could protest, Gabriel scooped him up, the boy immediately struggling and crying for the man who'd raised him. Marina led them toward the service stairs, but they could hear guards ascending from below. They were trapped between floors with nowhere to run. "This way," Marina indicated a narrow maintenance shaft. "It leads to the roof." They crawled through the cramped space with Davi sobbing and Gabriel whispering reassurances that felt like lies. When they emerged onto the roof, Moscow sprawled below them in the late afternoon light, beautiful and deadly. Gabriel's phone buzzed. Victor calling. "Answer it," Marina said. "Keep him talking while I call for extraction." Gabriel accepted the call, putting it on speaker. "You made a very serious mistake, Gabriel Russo." Victor's voice was deadly calm. "Return my son immediately, and perhaps I'll kill you quickly." "He's not your son," Gabriel said, holding Davi protectively despite the boy's struggles. "His name is Davi Russo, not Dmitry Volkov. The boy disagrees with you. Dmitry, tell your American kidnapper who your real father is." Davi looked at Gabriel with heartbreaking confusion. "Papa Victor, are you there?" "I'm here. This bad man is trying to take you away from me, but I won't let that happen." Gabriel watched his son's face crumple with terror and realized Victor was winning this psychological battle. In Davy's mind, Gabriel was the monster. "Victor," Gabriel said, "you know the truth. You know what you did 5 years ago. I saved a traumatized boy from a criminal father who couldn't protect his own family. I gave Dmitry love, stability, education. What did you give him? Violence and fear." The words cut deep because they contained enough truth to wound. Gabriel had failed to protect his son once. Maybe he was failing again now. Marina finished her call and turned back to Gabriel. "Helicopter extraction in 10 minutes. But Gabriel," she hesitated. "Victor's men have surrounded the building. If we try to leave with the boy against his will, they'll start shooting. And Davi will be in the crossfire." Gabriel looked down at his son, who stared back with amber eyes full of fear and confusion. The boy he dreamed of rescuing didn't want to be rescued. Worse, he saw Gabriel as the villain in his story. "What if I let you choose?" Gabriel asked Davi quietly. "Would you be brave enough to listen to a story first?" Davi stopped struggling, intrigued despite his fear. "What story?" Gabriel sat on the roof with his son in his lap, Marina keeping watch for approaching guards, and began to speak. "Once upon a time there was a little boy who loved dragons and airplane stickers and ice cream for breakfast on Sundays. His papa would read him stories in Italian and English, and they'd build castles out of pillows in the living room." Davy's eyes widened with recognition. This little boy had a birthmark shaped like a moon, and when he couldn't sleep, his papa would trace it gently and sing songs about brave knights and beautiful princesses. "How do you know about my moon?" Davy whispered. Gabriel smiled through his tears. "Because I used to trace it every night when you were scared. Because you're my little dragon, and I've missed you every single day for 5 years." Davy touched his birthmark, his expression shifting from fear to wonder. "Papa," he said in English, the word uncertain but hopeful. "Yes, baby, I'm your papa, and I'm here to take you home." Davy stared at Gabriel's face for a long moment, and Gabriel saw the exact instant when memory clicked into place. The boy's expression transformed with recognition and joy and overwhelming relief. "Papa, you found me. I knew you would find me." Gabriel held his son tight, both of them crying now. 5 years of separation melting away in that perfect moment of reunion. Then gunshots exploded across the roof, and Gabriel realized Victor wasn't planning to let them leave alive. Cap Tulo 9. Bullets shattered the roof tiles around them as Victor's security team breached the rooftop access. Gabriel rolled with Davi behind an air conditioning unit, Marina diving for cover behind a ventilation shaft, her own gun already in hand. "Stay down!" Gabriel commanded Davi, who clung to his father with fierce determination. "I won't let them take me away from you again, Papa," Davi said with the brave conviction only children possessed. Gabriel's heart swelled and broke simultaneously. His son remembered him, chose him, but they might all die before it mattered. "Cover me!" Marina shouted, firing precision shots at the advancing guards. "Helicopters 2 minutes out." Gabriel looked around the roof desperately. No easy escape routes. Professional killers closing in from all sides, and his 10-year-old son depending on him to somehow pull off a miracle. Then Davi tugged on his sleeve. "Papa, the laundry chute." "What?" "There's a laundry chute behind that door. It goes all the way down to the basement. We used to slide down it for fun when Mama Katya wasn't watching. Gabriel followed Davi's pointing finger to a small maintenance shed on the roof's far corner. It was their only chance, but it meant crossing 30 feet of open space while being shot at by professionals. "Marina," Gabriel called. "Suppressing fire in 30 seconds. We're making a run." "You're insane," Marina replied, reloading her weapon. "Story of my life." Gabriel counted down from 10, then grabbed Devi and sprinted across the roof, while Marina laid down covering fire. Bullets whistled past their heads, one so close it burned Gabriel's ear, but they reached the maintenance shed intact. Inside, a metal chute dropped into darkness. "Together?" Gabriel asked Davy. "Together," Davy confirmed with a grin that reminded Gabriel exactly why he'd fallen in love with being a father. They jumped. The ride down was terrifying and exhilarating, a controlled fall through 3 stories of twisting metal that dumped them into a basement laundry room filled with industrial washing machines. Gabriel rolled to absorb the impact, keeping Davy protected, and they landed in a pile of dirty linens that probably saved their lives. "Are you hurt?" Gabriel asked, checking Davy frantically for injuries. "That was awesome," Davy laughed. "Can we do it again?" Gabriel stared at his son in amazement. The boy had inherited his father's taste for dangerous adventures. "Later, little dragon. Right now we have to find Marina." They crept through the basement, listening to gunfire and shouting above them. Gabriel's phone buzzed with a text from Marina. "Helicopter landing in compound courtyard. Victor's men distracted. Move now." Gabriel and Davy emerged from the basement into the compound's main courtyard, just as a black helicopter touched down, its rotors whipping debris through the air. Gabriel's pilot, Tony, waved frantically from the cockpit. "Run!" Gabriel shouted to Davy, and they sprinted across open ground toward safety. Behind them, Victor's voice boomed across the courtyard. "Stop! You're stealing my son!" Gabriel turned to see Victor standing in the mansion's main entrance, his face twisted with grief and rage. The man genuinely believed Davy belonged to him. "He was never yours," Gabriel shouted back over the helicopter noise. "Dimitri," Victor called desperately, "don't go with him. He'll hurt you like he hurt your mother." Davy stopped running and looked back at the man who'd raised him for 5 years. Gabriel saw confusion and pain in his son's face as he struggled between old loyalties and newfound truth. "Papa Victor looks sad," Davy said to Gabriel. Gabriel's heart clenched. Even after everything, his 10-year-old son felt compassion for his kidnapper. "He is sad," Gabriel admitted, "but sometimes people who love us make wrong choices. Victor took you from me, but now I'm taking you home where you belong." Davy nodded, understanding more than any child should have to. "Goodbye, Papa Victor," Davy called across the courtyard. "Thank you for taking care of me." The words hit Victor like physical blows. The man who'd stolen Gabriel's son crumpled to his knees, destroyed by the gentle farewell of a child who'd outgrown his lies. Gabriel and Davy reached the helicopter just as Marina burst from the mansion, blood on her shoulder but alive. She dove into the aircraft as Victor's remaining guards opened fire. "Go, go, go!" Gabriel shouted to Tony. The helicopter lifted off, carrying them away from the compound, away from Victor's fury, toward freedom and home and the future Gabriel had dreamed of for 5 years. As Moscow fell away below them, Davy pressed against the window, watching the city where he'd grown up disappear beneath clouds. "Papa," he said quietly, "will I ever see Papa Victor again?" Gabriel considered lying, offering comforting promises that might not be true. Instead, he chose honesty. "I don't know, little dragon, but you'll always have good memories of the people who loved you in Russia. That's not something anyone can take away." Davy nodded solemnly, then curled up against Gabriel's chest and fell asleep. Exhausted by the emotional weight of choosing between 2 fathers, Gabriel held his son and watched Marina press gauze to her bullet wound, her blue eyes steady despite the pain. "Is it over?" she asked. Gabriel looked down at his sleeping son, finally safe in his arms after 5 years of searching. "The rescue is over," Gabriel said. "The rest of our lives is just beginning." Cap Tulo 10. The revelation came 3 days later, when they were safely back in New York and Davy had fallen asleep in Gabriel's bed, finally convinced his father wouldn't disappear again. Gabriel found Marina in his study, medical bandages visible beneath her borrowed shirt, staring out at the city lights with an expression he couldn't read. "You saved us back there," Gabriel said. "I haven't properly thanked you." Marina turned from the window. "Don't thank me yet. There's something you need to know about why Victor really took your son." Gabriel felt ice form in his stomach. What do you mean? Marina pulled out a tablet and showed him surveillance footage from 5 years ago, the night of the attack when Davy was kidnapped. Gabriel had seen versions of this before, but Marina's copy had audio. "Watch Victor's face when they bring Davy to him," Marina said. On screen, Gabriel watched his 5-year-old son being dragged into Victor's presence, crying and terrified. But instead of the cold calculation Gabriel expected, Victor's expression showed genuine shock. "This isn't what I ordered," Victor said in Russian to his men. "I said eliminate the Russo family, not kidnap children. The boy saw everything. Boss, he can identify us. So kill him quietly and be done with it." Gabriel's blood turned to ice watching his son's near-death sentence play out on screen. But then Victor knelt in front of the terrified 5-year-old, and something in his face changed. "What's your name, little one?" Victor asked gently in English. "Davy," his son whispered. "I want my papa." Victor was quiet for a long moment, studying Davy's face. Then he turned to his men. "Change of plans. The boy comes home with me." Gabriel paused the video, confused. "I don't understand. Why would he—" "Keep watching," Marina said. The video continued with Victor speaking privately to his lieutenant. "My son would have been exactly his age. Dark hair, amber eyes, everything. It's like God is giving me another chance." The truth hit Gabriel like a physical blow. Victor hadn't kidnapped Davy as strategic warfare against the Russo family. He'd taken him as an emotional replacement for his own dead child. "Victor's son died in a car accident 2 weeks before the attack on your family," Marina explained. "Same age, same coloring. In his grief-stricken mind, your son became his son reborn." Gabriel sank into a chair, processing the implications. So everything he told Davy about me not wanting him, was Victor convincing himself as much as Davy? He needed to believe he was saving your son, not stealing him. Gabriel stared at the frozen image on screen, Victor kneeling before 5-year-old Davy with an expression of wonder and desperation. "He really loved him," Gabriel said quietly. "Yes," Marina confirmed, "which makes this more complicated than simple kidnapping and rescue." Gabriel's phone rang. The caller ID showed Victor's number. Gabriel answered on speaker. "I know you're back in New York," Victor said without preamble. His voice sounded hollowed out, broken. Is Davy, is he well?" Gabriel looked toward his bedroom where his son slept peacefully. "He's fine, adjusting." "Does he hate me?" The question was asked with such vulnerable pain that Gabriel felt an unexpected stab of sympathy for his enemy. "No," Gabriel said honestly. "He's confused, but he doesn't hate you. He asked if he could send you a thank you card for taking care of him." Victor's breath caught audibly. "He's a good boy. Pure heart." "Yes, he is." Silence stretched between them. Two fathers who'd both loved the same child, one who'd stolen him and one who'd reclaimed him. "Gabriel," Victor said finally, "I need you to understand something. When I took your son, I didn't see him as your child. I saw him as my Alexei, returned to me by miracle. I convinced myself I was saving him from a life of violence." Gabriel clenched his jaw. "You convinced yourself of a lie." "Yes," Victor admitted. "But the love I gave him wasn't a lie. Every birthday, every bedtime story, every moment of joy, that was real." Gabriel felt tears sting his eyes, hating that he could understand Victor's pain. "I know," Gabriel said, "and I'm grateful that you loved him when I couldn't be there to do it myself." "You're a better man than I am," Victor said. "I would have killed anyone who tried to take Alexei from me, even if they were his real father." "Maybe," Gabriel said, "but I'm not you, and Davy isn't Alexei." "No," Victor agreed quietly. "He's not. He's your son, and he belongs with you. Victor's voice broke. "I just wanted to say goodbye properly. Tell him I love him. Tell him he'll always be even if he can't be my son." Gabriel made a decision that surprised himself. "Victor, would you like to video call with him tomorrow? Say goodbye properly." Marina stared at Gabriel in shock. Victor was quiet for so long Gabriel thought he'd hung up. "You would allow that?" Victor asked finally. "My son loved 2 fathers," Gabriel said. "I won't force him to pretend one of them never existed." "Thank you," Victor whispered. "That means more than you know." After the call ended, Marina looked at Gabriel with amazement. "That was either the most generous thing I've ever witnessed or the stupidest," she said. Gabriel smiled sadly. "With parenthood, those are often the same thing." He walked to his bedroom and found Davy awake, staring at the ceiling. "Papa? Was that Papa Victor on the phone?" Gabriel sat on the bed beside his son. "Yes." He wanted to make sure you're okay. I miss him a little, Davy admitted. Is that wrong? Gabriel pulled his son into his arms. It's not wrong to miss someone who loved you, even if the situation was complicated. Will you tell me about my real mama someday? Gabriel's throat tightened. Every day, if you want. She would have adored you. Davy nestled against Gabriel's chest. I love you, Papa. I love you too, little dragon. More than all the stars in the sky. As Davy fell back asleep, Gabriel realized that getting his son back was only the beginning. Now came the harder task of building a new life together, one that honored both the father Davy remembered and the one who'd raised him in between. Nafortuas Captulo 11. The video call took place the next evening in Gabriel's study. Davy sat in Gabriel's lap while Victor's face filled the screen, the man looking older and more fragile than Gabriel had ever seen him. Hello, Victor said softly in Russian. Papa Victor. Davy's face lit up with genuine joy. Are you okay? Papa Gabriel said you were sad. Victor smiled through obvious tears. I am sad, but seeing your face makes it better. Are you happy in New York? Yes, but I miss you and Mama Katya. Papa Gabriel says I can write you letters. I would love letters from you. You can tell me about school and chess and all your adventures. Gabriel watched the interaction with a mixture of pain and gratitude. Victor was saying goodbye gracefully, putting Davy's emotional well-being above his own desperate need. Papa Victor, Davy said seriously, Papa Gabriel told me the truth about what happened. I'm not angry with you. I understand you were sad about Alexei. Victor's composure cracked completely. You are so wise for such a little boy. Will you be okay without me? The question destroyed Victor. Gabriel watched the man who'd terrorized half of Russia cry like a heartbroken father. I'll be okay, Victor lied beautifully. Knowing you're safe and loved makes everything worth it. After they ended the call, Gabriel held Davy as the boy processed the complicated emotions of loving someone who'd hurt his family. Papa, are people good or bad? Davy asked. Gabriel considered the question carefully. I think most people are both. They make good choices and bad choices, sometimes for good reasons and sometimes for selfish ones. Papa Victor made a bad choice, but for a good reason. Something like that. Over the following weeks, Gabriel watched his son adjust to life in New York with remarkable resilience. Davy learned to navigate between his Russian memories and his American heritage, speaking both languages and missing both his fathers, until gradually the missing faded and the gratitude remained. Marina moved into the guest house on Gabriel's property, officially as security consultant, unofficially as the woman who'd become essential to their small family. She taught Davy Russian chess strategies and helped Gabriel understand the psychological challenges of raising a child who'd lived two different lives. He's stronger than either of us, Marina observed one evening as they watched Davy play in the garden. Gabriel agreed. He got the best parts of both worlds, Victor's chess skills and languages, my stubborn determination. And your eyes, Gabriel smiled. Definitely my eyes. Their relationship had evolved into something neither had expected when they first met in that penthouse office. What started as manipulation and mutual need had become genuine partnership and deepening love. Gabriel, Marina said one evening as they prepared dinner together, I need to tell you something about my future here. Gabriel felt his stomach clench. Are you leaving? The opposite. The Russian government has formally revoked my citizenship and issued international warrants. I can never go back. Gabriel set down his knife and turned to face her. Are you okay with that? Marina smiled. I'm more than okay with it. Russia was my past. You and Davy are my future. Marina. Gabriel moved closer. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Always. Do you love me, or do you love the idea of the family we've created? Marina considered the question seriously. Both, she said finally. I love you for who you are. Stubborn, dangerous, completely devoted to your son. But I also love us, what we build together. Is that wrong? It's honest, Gabriel said, and it's enough. That night, after Davy fell asleep, Gabriel found Marina on the balcony overlooking the city. There's something I've been meaning to give you, he said, pulling out a small jewelry box. Marina's eyes widened. Gabriel, it's not what you think, he said quickly. Not yet, but someday, when we're both ready, when Davy's had time to adjust to having me back. Gabriel opened the box, revealing a stunning sapphire ring. I want you to know that someday means something real to me. Marina stared at the ring, then at Gabriel's face. You're asking me to wait for a proposal? I'm asking you to build a life with me, officially, when the time is right. Marina kissed him soft and sure. And Gabriel Russo, you are the most complicated man I've ever known. Is that a yes? That's a ask me again in 6 months when Davi's settled and you're sure this isn't just gratitude for bringing your son home. Gabriel laughed. Fair enough. They stood together looking out at the city lights. Two people who'd found each other through tragedy and violence, now building something beautiful from the wreckage. Inside the house, Davi slept peacefully in his own bed, in his own room, finally safe and home. On his nightstand sat 2 framed photos, one of him with Gabriel from before the kidnapping, one of him with Victor and Katya from his years in Russia. Both were part of his story now. Both had shaped the brave, wise boy he was becoming. In the morning, Gabriel would start teaching him about the legitimate sides of the family business. Marina would continue his Russian lessons and chess training. They would build traditions and memories and the kind of stable, loving home that Davi deserved. But tonight, they were simply a family. Complicated, hard-won, and absolutely perfect. Cap Tulo 12. 6 months later, Gabriel stood in the garden of his estate watching Davy play soccer with 3 other children from his new school. His son had grown 2 inches, gained confidence and perspective, and somehow managed to integrate his dual heritage into a unique identity that was completely his own. He's remarkable, Dr. Chen observed from beside Gabriel. The family therapist had been working with all 3 of them to process the complex dynamics of their unusual situation. Kai gets that from his mother, Gabriel said. She always saw the good in impossible situations. Davi scored a goal and looked immediately to Gabriel for approval, grinning when his father cheered and applauded. The simple interaction filled Gabriel with contentment he'd never expected to feel again. You know, Dr. Chen said, in all my years of family therapy, I've never seen a case quite like yours resolve so positively. What do you mean? Most children who experience what Davi went through struggle with identity issues, loyalty conflicts, attachment disorders, but he's thriving. He's integrated both parts of his life in a healthy way. Gabriel considered this. I think it helped that we didn't force him to choose sides or pretend Victor never existed. Kids are smarter than adults give them credit for. Marina emerged from the house carrying a tray of lemonade, her hair loose around her shoulders, looking more relaxed than Gabriel had ever seen her. She'd been attending NYU part-time, studying international relations and business, preparing for a legitimate career that didn't involve espionage or revenge. The lawyers called, she told Gabriel as she set down the tray. Victor's extradition hearing is next month. Gabriel nodded. The Russian government had eventually distanced themselves from Victor completely, and American authorities were pursuing kidnapping charges. It would be a complicated case, given the international jurisdiction issues and the unusual circumstances. Will you testify? Dr. Chen asked. Yes, Gabriel said. Davi deserves justice, even if the situation is complex. And will Davi testify? Gabriel and Marina exchanged glances. They'd been debating this question for weeks. We're going to let him decide, Marina said. He's old enough to understand the choice and mature enough to handle whatever he chooses. That evening, after Davy's friends went home and they'd finished dinner, Gabriel broached the subject with his son. Davi, we need to talk about something important. Davi set down his chess piece, he was beating Gabriel again, and gave his father his full attention. The lawyers want to know if you'd be willing to talk to a judge about what happened in Russia, Gabriel explained carefully. You don't have to, and whatever you decide is okay with me and Marina. Davi was quiet for a moment, considering. Would it help other kids who got taken from their families? It might, Gabriel said honestly. And would Papa Victor get in trouble? He's already in trouble, Marina said gently. Your testimony might help the judge understand the whole story better. Davi nodded seriously. I want to do it, but I want to tell them that Papa Victor wasn't all bad. He made a mistake, but he loved me. Gabriel felt his heart swell with pride. His 10-year-old son had more wisdom and compassion than most adults. Are you sure? Gabriel asked. I'm sure. Sometimes grown-ups need kids to help them understand complicated things. Later that night, after Davi went to bed, Gabriel and Marina sat on the balcony sharing a bottle of wine and talking about the future. I've been thinking about your proposal, Marina said suddenly. Gabriel's pulse quickened. And? Ask me again. Gabriel studied her face in the moonlight, seeing certainty and love and the promise of tomorrow. He got down on one knee right there on the balcony, pulling out the sapphire ring he'd been carrying for months. Marina Petrov, will you marry me? Will you help me raise my son and build something beautiful and complicated and absolutely ours?" "Yes," Marina said, laughing and crying simultaneously. "Yes to all of it." Gabriel slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her while the city sparkled below them, and the future opened up like a door they were finally ready to walk through together. Inside the house, Davy heard them laughing and smiled in his sleep, dreaming of dragons and chess pieces and the safety that came from being loved by people who would never let him go. 3 months later, Viktor Volkov was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. During the trial, Davy's testimony had moved the courtroom to tears as he explained with childlike clarity how someone could make terrible choices for understandable reasons. The judge, in his sentencing remarks, noted that the case represented one of the most complex examples of criminal behavior, motivated by grief, that he'd ever encountered. Viktor would serve his time, but he would also receive psychological counseling to help him process his loss in healthy ways. On the day of Viktor's sentencing, Gabriel received a letter addressed to Davy. Inside was a hand-carved chess set and a note in Russian. Marina translated, "For my smart boy who taught an old man that love means letting go. Play well. Be happy. Your Papa Viktor will always be proud of you." Davy carefully placed the chess set in his room next to the photos and the airplane stickers he'd saved from his Moscow bedroom. Pieces of his history that would always be part of who he was. 6 months after the trial, Gabriel and Marina were married in the garden where they'd first talked about building a future together. Davy served as ring-bearer and best man, declaring in his wedding speech that he now had the best family in the world because it included everyone who'd ever loved him. As the sun set on their wedding day, Gabriel held his wife and watched his son dance with Rosa, surrounded by friends and family and the kind of joy that comes from surviving the impossible. "No regrets?" Marina asked, following his gaze. "About which part?" "Any of it. The pain, the search, the complications. If you could go back and change things." Gabriel considered the question seriously. The last 5 years had brought unimaginable loss and equally unimaginable love. His son was stronger for having survived his ordeal. His family was deeper for having been tested by tragedy. "I wouldn't change a thing," Gabriel said finally. "Every moment of pain led us here. To this, to you, to him being the remarkable boy he is now. Even Viktor?" Gabriel watched Davy spin Rosa around the dance floor, his laughter carrying across the garden like music. "Even Viktor," Gabriel said. "He loved my son when I couldn't. That matters even if everything else was wrong." As the evening wound down and the last guests departed, Gabriel found Davy sitting on the garden swing, looking up at the stars. "What are you thinking about, little dragon?" "Everything," Davy said. "How sometimes bad things happen, so good things can happen later." Gabriel sat beside his son on the swing. "That's very wise. Do you think Papa Viktor is looking at the same stars?" Gabriel followed Davy's gaze to the night sky. "Probably. I hope he's not too sad." Gabriel put his arm around his son. "I think knowing you're happy helps him not be as sad." They sat together in comfortable silence, father and son, finally home for good. In the house behind them, Marina cleaned up from the wedding, humming softly as she moved through rooms filled with love and laughter and the promise of all the tomorrows they would build together.